Welcome to Talking Science Interviews. Matt Miller with you in Studio 4. Today, Dr. Graham Walker's beaming in to chat about reaching out with science to the masses and getting people engaged with all sorts of science. Let's roll the opener and get straight into this chat. This one's going to be fun.
Beaming around the world on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. This is Talking Science.
And Graham, thanks for beaming in and having a Trekzone conversation today.
It's good to be here, Matt. Thanks for having us on.
Now tell us a little bit about your work in reaching science out to the masses.
Well, big question. There's lots of masses out there, but I work at a place called the Centre for the Public Awareness of Science, affectionately known as CPAS at the ANU, the Australian National University, where we do all things science communication. So really anywhere where there's an interface of science and the public, that's kind of where we're operating. That might be in the policy space and the kind of more serious end of, climate comms and that kind of thing. The bit I get to work in is around informal science learning and the kind of science communication that goes on in places like science centres, science shows, all that kind of thing. And we do that in Australia. We run academic programs, master's programs in that area. We also do it all around the world. So we've got capacity building programs in Africa and another called Science Circus Pacific, where we're trying to, share these kind of approaches to science engagement with our friends all around the world.
And how do you come up with a program that's engaging for people to enjoy, people that aren't necessarily science-driven or have a science background? How do you tailor a program to keep everyone interested?
Well, it's a good question. Interest is it's a really intriguing thing. Interest is one of the things I studied in my PhD, which kind of looked at emotional engagement in science communication and actually looking at, what are those different emotions? So I guess you've kind of got that side, the kind of more psychological side of engagement, and then you've got the actual program. And I think one good example I can give, the program, or in fact, highly biased, warning everyone, is a program called Circus. And we run a master's program where students come and do their master's, and as their fieldwork in that master's program, they go out and run the Science Circus. Now, a couple of important things about the Circus is it takes science to where people are. It doesn't rely on people, coming to the science. It actually tours around regional Australia. So, that's a really important thing, is to, take science out to people, engage them at their level in what they're interested in, rather than the other way around.
Now, you founded the Science Circus Africa project, which has trained 499 staff and reached 73,000 people in 10 African countries. To take it overseas and to these communities that aren't necessarily fully au fait with everything going on in science. Obviously, things are a little different in Africa. What's that been like to have so many thousands of people reached by your program?
Yeah, I guess so the program in Australia really is hard. It's about, building up people's skills, in this case, the master's students. And we really saw an opportunity to do a similar thing overseas. So two very dear people in my life, Professor Michael Gore, who started Questacon, and Professor Sue Stockmeyer, they started a project to share these kind of techniques in Africa. As you might imagine, Africa faces a lot of challenges. They have major challenges in the formal schooling system. And I should say that's not unlike any country in the world. Science is not an easy topic to teach, and teachers are undervalued almost universally, certainly in our country, and I'd say in Africa as well. So what we try and do through programs like Science Circus Africa is to complement that formal education system. And really at its heart, it's about partnering with people over there that are also passionate to develop science communication programs, develop science centres. And there's real diversity. South Africa, extremely strong community of science centres. Right through to working with a young guy, Francis, in Zambia. We've got a GoFundMe on the go. If anyone's keen, you can look it up, Francis Mulenga, doing the Science Circus in Zambia, there's no informal science education. There's nothing, no science centres. There's nothing like that in Zambia. So he's kind of really pioneering the sector. And there's people, right across Africa kind of on this movement, doing some really brilliant work. Just to pick up on the other bit of your question, I mean, I think wherever we go, people have different ideas about science, and I wouldn't say that that's typical of any continent or any country. Even in my own country, some of the misconceptions that people have about science are probably, right on par with, what other people might look at as witchcraft or sorcery. So I think those kind of misconceptions to science and disinformation around science that exists, in every culture, and for I'd say some naive reasons, but also some very nefarious reasons, which we've seen more recently in things like, COVID, vaccinations, 5G. So, it really underscores, the need for science communication, whether it's, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Australia, but particularly with Science Circus Africa, we do live in a lucky country, and it's good to be able to work with people overseas who are just kind of on the beginning of a science communication journey and see what we can learn from them as well.
Where do you start with going into a country like Zambia? Where do you start with science communication? A country that doesn't necessarily have, as you say, those roots, that knowledge of science. What's a starting point for you to get people engaged and keep them engaged?
Yeah, it's a good question, because science communication as a discipline, I mean, some of the more chin-strokey colleagues I have, they would be arguing about whether it is a discipline even. So it is a relatively recent term. I should say it's been going on a long time with, things like extension work in agriculture. It's been going on for hundreds of years, just in different names. But I think where we start in a place like Zambia or Samoa or a lot of the other countries we're working in is finding someone who's passionate. Some of the research I do around the capacity building work that we do, it really highlights that you need a passionate person who's going to drive it. I mean, you're a one-man podcast, machine, and it's your passion that drives this thing. To a large degree, you love science, all these other things, but passion. So we try and find people who have that passion. Then we try to really understand their goals. It's not about us taking, our approach to science, our science circus, and just kind of cookie cuttering it into another country. About understanding their goals, understanding, where they want to go, and then working together on that. So in an ideal world where we're really well funded, we've got heaps of time. That is not the reality in Africa. It's very hard work running projects over there. But, we try to co-design things and really build programs together. So we've got mutual goals, and then we can, really go on a journey together. And that's what gives sustainability. And critically, that's what gives ownership of what we're doing to the people we're working with in Zambia or Fiji or wherever else.
And I believe that the program that you're aiming to expand the program now through to the Asia Pacific region, taking on some lessons learned in Africa and making it even bigger, or just broadening the reach of the SciComm project.
Yeah, it has been. It's been both. It's definitely been bigger. We've been very fortunate to get some Australian government support to help us expand, and actually got a 3-year program on the go in the Pacific, which I guess in Africa, it's let us have these really ongoing interactions. Obviously not doing too much travel at the moment, but working out some really exciting ways to operate online, as a lot of people are, Matt. And we're running online workshops and doing things like this. If we've got any teachers and things tuning in, you can jump onto our Facebook page, Science Circus International Capacity Building, and on there you can get involved in online workshops and lots of things like that. So it's let us, take some of the things we've learnt in Africa and bring them into the Pacific to test them in a much more kind of long-term way. Over 3 years, you really get to know people, visiting, and you can really kind of go on this journey. And we're doing the same thing in Africa, just with a lot fewer resources. And of course, that does tie your hands to some degree.
Fantastic, Graham. Well, SciComm is a really favourite thing that I've sort of fallen into with Trekzone, really expanding out talking science with Dr. Brad Tucker on Tuesdays with the news show, and interviews now on Thursdays, diving into the movers and shakers of science, if you will. And you're certainly one of those people bringing it out in a fun way, which I think is the key to get people, everyday people, if you will, excited about science, because it's not just all the boring research and studying through telescopes and all that sort of stuff. There is a lot of fun to be had in science as well.
Absolutely. Look, and if you're one of those people that does want to share the fun in science, I can thoroughly recommend the master's program we run with Questacon. It's a year. There's a scholarship, there's a stipend, and there's massive adventures on the road with Questacon, both virtually and physically, along with a master's program at ANU. So if you're kind of watching this going, oh, wow, science communication, that looks like a good caper to get into, please, hit us up about the master's program, recruiting for next year as we speak.
Fantastic. Dr. Graham Walker, thanks for a little bit of your time. Thanks for beaming into Trekzone, and good luck out there, and we'll be seeing you again real soon.
Awesome, Matt. Happy to. Maybe I can do some demos next time. And until then, stay curious.
Keep up to date with Twitter. Catch new podcasts daily on YouTube. Plus, we're beaming to your favourite podcast app 5 days a week. Just search for Trekzone.